Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Brawn Body Podcast. We're overhauling our formatting in podcast episodes, so this is likely the last episode that you will hear with the traditional formatting, the regular intro, all that sort of thing. We will be adding some affiliate ads. The reason for that is we put a lot of time and effort into these shows, and some of our guests have started to request compensation. So in order to help with that, we're going to have to start running ads in order to keep the podcast free. Some people have suggested we start doing a membership-only podcast, and that's not what we're here for. That's not what we believe in. So there are a couple changes coming to the formatting. But with that, today, Motivation Monday, Mindset Monday, we're diving into the origins, the start of Brawn Body and the start of this podcast over a year ago and where we are today. So many of you have probably heard this story before, but I think it serves an important reminder to a lot of people. When I started this podcast, I had no idea what I was doing. I was not a very, very confident person in my podcasting abilities. I had no idea how to edit a podcast. I had no idea what format, what structure to go with. I was very clueless. And with that, I just kind of did what I felt was right and listened to a lot of other podcasts and tried to keep that in perspective when I was putting my own together. I really figured it out as I went along the path and along the journey. And with some persistence and dedication and commitment, we've grown to the point we are now where we're almost to thousands of monthly listeners. We've been getting better guests every month. We've been getting some exciting people, some awesome interviews, and really sharing some awesome content. And I'm really happy with how we've grown since we started the podcast. I mean, you remember a little over a year ago when we started, it was inconsistently published. It was, we didn't really have a whole lot of guests. And with that, we didn't really have a whole lot of people listening. So it's been nice to get a little more consistency with our podcast. It's been nice to get some awesome people on the show and really connect and network with some of these individuals. And from the business side of things, same thing. I had no idea what I was doing starting a business. I couldn't tell you, how to run a business. I couldn't tell you the ins and outs of Business 101. I never took a business course in my life. So when it comes to business, you would think of me and you wouldn't really see someone who was going to succeed, right? You would see someone who was probably going to try and fail. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm the most successful fitness entrepreneur to ever walk the earth. We would know that's a straight up lie. But I'm doing okay considering I didn't really know what I was doing. And I think this speaks volumes to something that we don't really have a good grasp on in society, if you ask me. We are so afraid to start something because we're afraid of failing. I don't care what it is we're talking about, whether it's the podcast, the business, whatever. People are afraid to fail. People are afraid that they're going to get judged for doing something like this. People are afraid of this, that, or the other thing. Whatever it is. We can always find a reason to not do something, to talk ourselves out of it. We can apply that principle to anything, whether it's physical therapy. We can find a reason to do a high-velocity manipulation on someone, or we could find a reason not to. If we're talking fitness, we could find a reason to do squats or overhead press. We could also find a reason not to. I don't care who you are. We could justify it one way or the other, right? Well, that's what happens in anything in life. Personal development, entrepreneurship, life. We can always find that little voice inside our head that says, yes, do it, send it, go for it. What's the worst that could happen? And we always have another voice inside our head that tells us, no, don't do it, don't bother, you're wasting your time, it won't succeed, it won't happen, right? And these two voices, they're constantly battling with one another, fighting with one another. I've heard them called kind of the two wolves that live inside your head. And every day they wake up and they battle each other. And the one that wins is the one you feed, the one you grow, the one you nourish, the one that gets stronger. That's the one that's going to fight harder and win more. Now with that, my question for you is, which wolf are you feeding in your life? Are you feeding the one that's confident, that's calm, that's cool, that's collected? Are you feeding the one that's set to win, that says, I don't care what other people think. I know my path, I know my journey, and I'm going on it no matter what. I don't care if I fail. I'll use failure as a learning tool, as a step towards that ultimate goal that I'm after, the big picture, the successful picture. Or are you feeding the one that says, I can't do this? Are you feeding the one that says, I'm not good enough? Are you feeding the one that's fearful, that wants you to give up, that wants you to surrender, that wants you to stay stuck, chasing the rat race? The one that says, you know what? I'm fine here. It's not perfect. It's not ideal, but I can live with it. I'll put up with it. Are you stuck in life, living a life that you don't want to be living? And are you constantly listening to that voice that tells you just suck it up and deal with it, because the comfort that comes with an easy life is better than the risk that comes with a hard life? I never said that chasing your goals and pursuing your dreams was easy. It's not. It's pretty hard. It's pretty difficult. But life, there's this paradigm in life. It's a trade-off. It's called the myth of easy. You can choose the harder path, right? You have to make harder decisions. You have to think a lot more. You have to work a lot harder. You might have to punch in 10-hour days, 12-hour days, 14-hour days. You might have to work overtime. It's harder, but it provides more. However, there's this other path, the easy path, the path that says you don't have to do that. Just work your normal job. Don't start a business. Don't read. Just go home and watch TV. Stay comfortable. Stay where you're at, right? The myth of easy. I've talked about this in the past. The easy way is a lie, because when you're comfortable like that, when you're complacent, feet up, what happens? That laziness starts to creep over into other aspects of your life. Don't get me wrong, you have to balance work and play. But when play exceeds work, we call that the easy life. And when that happens, we start taking the easier choices in other things. We don't get up early in the morning. We don't go to the gym. We don't work out. We don't eat as healthy. We start to lose our grasp on our health. Well, then we start to lose our grasp on other things. Maybe finances start to slip. Maybe we're in debt. Maybe we fall behind on a payment or two. Who knows? Next thing you know, that easy life has become a hard life. So, what can you take away from all of this? First off, don't be afraid to pursue your dreams and pursue your goals. You might not get where you want to be overnight. There is no instant gratification. We've talked about that extensively. However, if you stay persistent, stay dedicated, and choose that harder path and fight for it every single day, you will make progress. You'll keep moving that needle of life in the right direction. And even if you fail, the lessons you learn on that way, those are indispensable. They can be imperishable forever. So, that's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It's your life. You're writing your own book here. Who cares what anyone else wants to put in it? It's not their novel to write. It's yours. Lesson number 3, easy life. It's a myth. Going out and making easy choices will lead to more difficulty later down the line. There was a quote I heard recently by, I believe it was a Saudi prince, and they were talking about how his grandfather rode camels. His father rode camels, but he drives a Rolls Royce, right? Really nice car, really expensive. And his son is going to be driving a really nice car, really expensive car. His grandson, however, he said will likely be on a camel again. And the reporter asked him why. Why does he think that? Why does he feel that way? Why would they be going backwards when they're showing so much prosperity? And he said the hard times that came before him created harder men. They created people who would rise to the occasion to succeed. They worked hard and created an easy life. But easy lives create easy people. They create people who don't want to work. They just want to enjoy the comfort. They want to enjoy the luxuries of life. And when that happens, we're seeing it happen right now in America. The amount of times I go places, I see help wanted, I see job listings online, and they've been there for 30, 40, 50 days. People are hiring. They can't get people to work. Well, people are comfortable. They're content. They don't need to work. They don't want to work. So what happens? Those easy times, they created easy people, soft people. Soft times create soft people. And all of a sudden, things start to collapse upon themselves. And we start to shift back towards those harder times. Why? Because if people aren't working, things are going to collapse. No one's there to hold up the system and support everything. So when things start to come down and collapse, it's going to take some hard-willed people to rise to the occasion, to hold it back up. And we go through hard times, and that creates harder men. That creates tougher men, tougher people that rise to the occasion. And all of a sudden, the cycle restarts itself. So those are 3 big takeaways. And again, if you have any questions at all, I'm more than happy to help you, whether it's about your podcast, your business, your health and fitness journey. Shoot me an email, brawnbodytraining@gmail.com, or check us out on Instagram @BrawnBody. That's going to do it for today's Motivation Monday episode. Reminder, we've got some big changes coming. We've got a lot more guests coming, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of our future episodes. We'd also really appreciate it if you'd share our episodes and our podcast with a friend. Make sure you check us out on Instagram if you haven't already. And as always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the Brawn Body Podcast. We'll see you on Wednesday. Take care.